The results are out. 51 of our students have made it to the toppers list in 2020 UPSC examination. If you also dream to crack this examination, I would encourage you to join our YouTube channel, subscribe to it, and stay up to date in your preparation. तैयारी आपकी, जिम्मेदारी हमारी. Hey everyone, how are you guys doing? Welcome to the 27th edition of Nakshebaazi. Today we are going to talk about the Scramble for Africa. I have sort of limited the entire series mostly to the context of Indian subcontinent. But as your mains examination is approaching, and you do get at times a couple of questions on world history. So I thought maybe I can choose and select some topics and discuss them with you. Right? So with that objective in mind, I want to give you a small little, understanding of this entire scramble for Africa. This is also an age of new imperialism. The age of old imperialism is gone. In old imperialism, the players were such as your Portugal, Spain, right? The Dutch, these guys were the important players. But in this time, in the wave of the second imperialism, which begins in around 1870s, 80s, 90s, here there are new entrants in the game. Here is Italy, Germany, new countries which have been established, even United States. They also join in this wave of new imperialism. These new nations which have been created, right? They are infused with this nationalistic spirit and rivalry. So let's have a look at this interesting chapter for history. And mind you, this black event somewhere, this freak event, it is still determining lives in Africa as we speak. Let's have a look, right? See, Germany, Italy, Portugal, Spain, France, Belgium. It's like a small little district, right? It had a huge region in Africa, Congo region. In 1870, only 10% of African continent was under European control. Only 10%, and that too, they were mostly in coastal regions. The northern coast of Africa, your Egypt, Libya, Algiers, all that has been known right from Roman days because it was right next to the Mediterranean. But then after that, there's the Sahara Desert. And the sub-Saharan African region was not understood at all. And by 1870, the European presence was limited only to 10% of the continent. Such as Angola and Mozambique on the western coast were held by Portugal. Cape Colony right down in the south by UK. Algeria was being held by France. And there were some Boer republics as well in southern portion. These are Dutch republics. A lot of Dutch people have settled here and they have married the locals. This community came to be known as the Boers around modern day South Africa region. Okay, let's keep up the discussion. So जैसा मैं तुम्हें बता रहा था बच्चे, by 1870 only 10% of Africa is occupied. By 1914, that means the start of World War I, 90% was under their control. Such was the dramatic increase. This is why it is called as a freak event. And all this happened without any wars involving European countries. They did it by mutual agreements. कि ये हिस्सा मेरा, ये तुम्हारा. And in the First World War, right, total war, it is known as total war, because these European countries, when they fought that war, they pumped in the resources of all these colonies which they had at their service. Their human resource, their natural resources were pumped into that war. And many of these colonies, they themselves became the theaters of war. You follow me? Right? See, in 1880, this is how the map looked like. And by 1913, this is all United Kingdom. Right? This is all French. Right? These were the two big victors here. The Germans, they also managed to get Namibia region and few other holdings as well here and here. Belgium, notice Belgium. It's a very small country. See, they got such a huge empire as a personal estate of King Leopold. Zamindari thi unki almost here. Right? And their people were made to basically make rubber. Right? Portuguese, of course, were the first to enter. Right in 15th century. Right? Angola and Mozambique, this is Angola, that's how they were present. Notice they are only present in coastal areas. This is Cape Colony. Okay? They were like dots of civilization upon the borders of undeveloped barbarism. There were tribes living around, and these Europeans, they considered them barbaric. And why were they present here? The slave trade was also going on. A very complex slave trade network had also developed. Right? Right? I will not talk right now about it. I do not have the relevant maps. But yes, that in itself is a wonderful, aspect to understand. Okay, now the big question which arises, why there was no European interest? Till 1870s, why were they not showing any interest? They were not showing any interest because one thing, they were not capable of entering. There were so many rivers which had not been charted properly. The forests were infested with malaria. I mean, the insects which causes malaria through its bite. There were swamps all around. This region was known as white man's graveyard. Only 1 out of 10 European would survive. The living conditions were such. There were rapids, there were waterfalls, there were deserts, swamps, mosquitoes. What's more, the tribes had a very simple life. The tribes had very simple life. And as a result, there was not a lot of opportunity present for lucrative trade. तो पैसा बहुत ज्यादा फायदा भी नहीं था अपने यूरोपियंस के लिए. So they kind of stayed out. But then things started changing. 19th century, mid 19th century, things started changing. How? आइए पकड़ते हैं. In late 18th century, right, in late 18th century, somewhere in 1780s, some wealthy Englishmen, they formed a society called as African Association. The idea was to, basically explore the continent of Africa. And they were interested in exploring the mythical stories, the mythical cities of Timbuktu. Right? They wanted to get Timbuktu. Yes, right, here it is. Timbuktu is a very fabled city for its wealth. And they wanted to trace the course of River Niger. By 1835, these guys, they were wealthy, so they were able to sponsor a lot of, explorers. And by 1835, Northwest Africa is explored. At this stage, you should also understand the role which was played by Protestant missionaries. These missionaries, they were also very eager to enter. One name in this regard, which is often cited, is that of David Livingstone, right? David Livingstone. He was a Protestant missionary. He's considered as the first European to see Victoria Falls, right? He went there and he got lost. It's a very interesting story, actually. David Livingstone went to charter, to understand basically West and South and Central Africa. But then he got lost. And then H.M. Stanley, this is Victoria Fall, by the way. This is Victoria Fall, right? H.M. Stanley, an American, he was sent by Leopold of Belgium, King Leopold of Belgium, to go and find David Livingstone. And he managed to do it. And these two fellows, David Livingstone and H.M. Stanley, they are credited with undertaking some really hazardous journeys. And they were able to map the interiors of the continent. So the continent, which was still now like a black box, it started opening up. Additionally, a lot of technological advances also helped. This is another, very interesting person. He's called as D. Brazza. D. Brazza, an Italian French. He helped the French enter the right bank of River Congo. And it was he who started the French colonies, the French presence in Central Africa. In fact, you would be surprised to know this. Their capital, Congo's capital, is called as Brazzaville. Right? He still has a lot of legacy in those parts. Okay. So these explorers, they were able to map and understand. And they not only just mapped. Right? They went there and they were able to somewhere meet the local people and establish some kind of understanding with them as well. Right? And now the world realized, because of the effort of these explorers, The world realized the vast resources of Africa. And thus the scramble begins. Now people start rushing in. This is also the time when industrialization is going on. This is also the time when industrialization is going on. And industrialization, it propels scientific advances in all sorts of fields. And these technical advances and industrialization, as it proceeds, it demands newer markets and newer places for raw material procurement. And this leads to the second wave of colonialism and imperialism, with a new set of entrants. Right? You get me? So as I was telling you, some technological innovations, they also played a very critical role. For example, in 1820, people realized, a couple of scientists, they discovered that cinchona, a tree from Andes, Peru region, can be used to isolate quinine. This is the cinchona bark. And from it, you can actually isolate quinine, which is an anti-malarial drug. So now people were much more confident of entering these vast forests. The mortality rate must have declined. Not only this, have a look at, steamers came into picture. Steamers ko control karna, steer karna was easier in this swampy region. New kind of guns which were so much more killer, such as Maxim guns. Ye steamer pe lada gaya. Right? We also start hearing of breech-loaded rifles. What are breech-loaded rifles? Those rifles which are loaded from the rear side, the back side here, rather than the muzzle. तो muzzle वाले को load करना is very tiresome, not effective. आप जब तक load कर रहे हैं वो आपको तमाचा ही तमाचा मारेगा, right? And this one is so much, easier. Percussion caps came in. So now you can use guns in any kind of even humid atmosphere. Right? So these technological advances, they also help. Moreover, another very important reason, Britain has already become industrialized by now. It had a lot of surplus capital, and it needed certain places which can act as some kind of projects on which they can earn return on investment, on their investment. They had a lot of surplus capital. Domestically, they were not able to generate much return, but if they start investing outside England, they got better return. And if they start investing outside Europe, Africa, India, then their returns will be much larger. So that was also one of the important causes. Nationalism was rife on the scene, right? This Germany, Italy, right? The Serbian nationalism. Everywhere, everybody was, rising with this nationalistic spirit. And they started somewhere equating the colonies with the national pride. The public opinion, it wanted the middle classes. They wanted colonies. Because they saw that a lot of colonies means growth of the economy of the mother country. Colonial lobbies emerged. In several cases, senior politicians, statesmen, they had to bend down against public, to the public pressure. The leaders, some of the leaders, they were very aggressive. They wanted more colonies. Some of them made statements such as that Britain and France have long kept the best colonies for them and have left deserts and swamps for us. So you see the kind of mentality which was at play here. There were colonial exhibitions which were organized in these mother countries to generate public approval, public awe. And public will feel very happy, they will clap. A kind of jingoism, राष्ट्र भक्ति की अथाह चल रही थी. Jingoism, right? This is Karl Hagenbeck, a German. He's considered as the founding father of a modern circus. He started this idea, right? He would go and collect these exotic animals from these colonies, right? And he would display them for all to view. And not only just animals, not only just leopard and cheetahs and bhalu, human zoos were created. Human zoos were created. Can you believe it? I will show you a picture, then I'm sure you would. Most of these people who were, taken, they simply died in a foreign land, being gazed upon. Right? So partitioning of the continent was accomplished without a European war. This is what makes it such a freak event. It was done so rapidly, I've already told you. The most vociferous were Germany and Italy कि हमें भी colonial empire बनाना ही बनाना है. उनका interest देख करके the others said, all right, okay, why leave this one continent, get it as well. America has already hegemonized Americas. USA has already hegemonized. It has stated in Monroe Doctrine that Europeans must not mess with the northern or southern American region. This is our region to mess, right? So they've already hegemonized this, the Atlantic. So any which way, they needed more place to have their fun. So others also followed suit, right? The Berlin Conference was organized in 1884 and February 1885, presided over by Bismarck, Otto von Bismarck, the Chancellor of Germany. He is the one who is responsible for unifying Germany, right? He organized the Berlin Conference, also known as the Congo Conference or West Africa Conference, right? It tried to regulate the colonization and trade. He was the president 50 colonies were created. But this conference should not be overemphasized, because there were a lot of bilateral agreements were also done before as well as after Berlin Conference. But yes, it does tell you the kind of attitude which these people had over the entire matter. Not even a single African leader was invited. See how they're cutting and they're looking at it with so much of greed. Isn't it? The artist has very aptly picked up. The Berlin Conference did not initiate European colonization, but it did legitimize it. It legitimized it. By 1914, 90% of Africa was now under these one or the other European powers. This is Congo Basin. Europe had added 1/5 of the global landmass as colonies. France had managed to get the largest amount of area. Largest amount of area-wise. Area-wise, France was the winner. But most of its region was the Saharan desert. So not of much use. UK had a slightly lesser area, but a greater population. See, Egypt, Sudan, Uganda, Kenya. This is your Zimbabwe, and then your South Africa. This is French West Africa. As you can see, right? This is Sahara Desert. Germany is your Namibia, Cameroon, Togoland, and Tanzania region. Italy got Eritrea and certain regions of Somaliland. Belgian Congo. Only Ethiopia, also known as Abyssinia, and Liberia, they remained independent. Liberia was a country which was established by USA. When they abolished slavery, they created this country. After the Civil War, they created this country to resettle a lot of blacks. It's called as Liberia. So they did not dare mess with Liberia. Ethiopia stayed out of their grasp. Italy tried, but Ethiopia defeated them. As you can see, right, UK got the biggest pie in terms of productive population and resources. 30% population was under British occupation. France only had 15%. Portugal, 11%. Germany, 9%. Belgium, 7%. And Italy, a paltry 1%. Right? This will be it from my side. God bless you.